The plan this morning is to start with the Pledge of Allegiance and the roll call, but then the next item of business immediately is that because the chair and vice chair are absent from the meeting, we need to have a presiding officer for this meeting only. So a motion will immediately be in order after the roll call to nominate and elect from your number one person to serve as the presiding officer of today's meeting.
Commissioner Garcia. Oh, Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Garcia. Commissioner Gupta.
Here.
Commissioner Nugent.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Sarno-Kwan is absent, and we do have a quorum. And is there a motion for a nomination of a chair?
Would anybody like to volunteer to be chair today?
I'll be happy to.
Thank you. I would like to make a motion to nominate Gupta as Commissioner Gupta as our chair today.
Second.
Commissioner Garcia.
Aye.
Commissioner Nugent.
Aye.
Chair Gupta.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Okay, so we move on to our agenda for today. Give me a moment. I hope you can hear me. We'll now open public comment for items not on consent agenda and items not on the agenda. This meeting is a limited public forum. All public comments must relate to something that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of this agency. If a comment does not relate to the subject matter jurisdiction of this agency, we will interrupt your comment and move on to the next speaker. As presiding officer of the meeting today, I will determine whether a comment does not relate to the subject matters placed within this agency's purview. Madam Clerk, please proceed.
Thank you, Chair. I will first call upon members in person, followed by speakers on Zoom. For in-person comments, the speaker slips are located in the back of the room. On Zoom, please use the raised hand feature or *9 if you are calling by phone. And at this time, we have no speakers in chambers or on Zoom for items not on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now close public comments for the items on consent agenda and items not on the agenda. Is there a motion to set the agenda and approve consent agenda, which includes item 1, minutes from September 24, 2025?
So moved.
I second.
Thank you. That was a motion by Commissioner Garcia, a second by Commissioner Nugent. Commissioner Garcia.
Aye.
Commissioner Nugent.
Aye.
Chair Gupta.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
We'll now move on to the item 2. Madam Clerk, please introduce the project and the planner.
Owner, Cabrillo Unified School District. Applicant, Roger Anchartahar. PLN 2023-00223. Location 400 Santiago Avenue, El Granada. APN 047-330-020. And your project planner is Camille Leon.
So the project is for the El Granada Elementary School. It's associated with a campus modernization project that you all saw in the recent past. This includes lighting the parking lot that would serve the school. Okay. Okay. Oops. Excuse me. You'll see in these slides a map showing the location in El Granada. It's at the southern end next to Cabrillo Highway, as you can see. It's an existing school campus that abuts a residential area to the north. And it's of a lower grade elevation, so there's a potential for view impacts to the residential areas. And you can see that the parking lot is on the top left of the project site. And that's shown in more detail here. The parking spaces, the driveways, all that is not included in this project application. It's really just the lighting. This was a description of the modernization project the Planning Commission approved. It included a larger classroom building, some portable classrooms, playground equipment, access improvements, including path lighting. So there was, we call it bollard lighting, like about 4 foot high pathway based lights that go from the parking lot to the school buildings and through the campus. But does not include the lighting in the parking lot. That was delayed to a later application, this application, in order to get more community feedback and work on the design to address comments. It included a relocation of the trash storage area and compactor, as well as new landscaping. So these are photos taken in the daytime of the parking lot of this lighting application. And you can see there's really no light posts. There was actually correspondence that came in that was posted on the website that had really good nighttime photos. But at night, really, there is no general lighting. There may be like one floodlight, and the applicant can speak to this more clearly, but it's very ineffective and very dark. So the subject application includes 5 18-foot high light posts of the spec shown here. It's downward directed. And hopefully that would reduce the ambient light to the night sky. And just in terms of how lighting would be put into this currently under construction project, this modernization project started in summer of 2024, and with completion, including the lighting anticipated by late this year. We can see if there's an update to that. So these are the light posts locations, 3 along the top of the parking lot and 2 at the bottom. And the dumpster area, which is part of kind of like specified in this schedule, is, I believe, on the bottom right, kind of in that area. Oh, that's good. Okay, so this is just a summary of the analysis in the staff report. From a visual quality standpoint, with regard to regulations in the general plan and local coastal program, policy 8.13 requires that the development minimize the blocking of views to or along the ocean shoreline from Highway 1 and other viewpoints between Highway 1 and the sea. And the current lighting of the parking lot is, as I said, inadequate for visibility and security, especially when dark. And as shown in the next slide, which includes the updated photometric plan, the proposed 18-foot light post would improve site visibility while minimizing offsite and ambient lighting through light shields and reduced pole heights from the original proposal. It's a zone-based lighting plan with timed lighting to minimize unnecessary lighting. So you can see here is like a foot candle map that the values at the top along Santiago, which is the street separating the campus from the residential areas, pretty much go to zero. So the spillover is very, very minimal, if at all. While the values within the parking lot are adequate for lighting for parking and walking and access purposes. And if you have any, I guess, detailed questions, the applicant and their light specialists are here today. So this map shows the proposed zones for the lighting. Zones 1 through 5 are shown here. 6, 7, and 8 are previously approved. So we'll just be focusing on 1 through 5. And in terms of the light schedule, zones 1 and 3 will turn off at sunset and on at 8:30 p.m. And then poles in zone 2. So 1 and 3 are the ones kind of closest to the neighbors. And then zone 2, which is located near the trash area, will stay on until 11 to accommodate the cleaning staff. And then zone 4 and 5 will be only turned on during nighttime scheduled events, which will be about 25 events or less per year, potentially less. And lighting will be turned off for weekends and school breaks, with the exception of those events. With regard to compliance with other zoning regulations, the use permit regulations apply. There was a use permit issued for the school in 1980. So this would be an amendment to that use permit along with the amendments made through the modernization project. This project is subject to design review, in which that public view policy also applies. And then it would be subject to the resource management regulations, which call for minimization of lighting, earth tone lighting, yellow versus blue tones. So condition 16 has been added to require yellow or brown tone lights rather than blue tone fluorescents. So the lighting discussion with the community goes back to at least January 2024, or probably even before. The applicant has been working diligently in reaching out to the community via the MCC to address concerns regarding the dark sky impacts. So there was a community meeting on, so there was a letter first by the MCC on January 24th, 24. And then there was a community meeting following that where the applicant agreed to separate the parking lot lighting from the rest of the modernization project to allow more discussion, since that was really the bone of contention. And then it also allowed the construction project for the modernization project to move forward, and so that they can meet their goals and timing for that relative to the school schedule. There was another meeting in March, several meetings with the school board. And then there's, based on all of those comments received, they submitted a revised lighting design. It included the minimum number of posts, lower posts in some areas, as well as the more refined lighting schedule, which resulted from those discussions. So the project is CEQA exempt per the section cited. So with that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve the amendment to the project permits, including a CDP, use permit, design review permit, and resource management permit, and make the findings and adopt the conditions of approval in attachment A. And as I said, the applicant is here today if you have any questions.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Camille. Questions from the commissioners?
Sure. I do have a question for either planning staff or the applicant. We did receive some correspondence talking about switching And I want to know, is it possible for, say, custodial staff to turn the lights off when they're done? Especially with the later, the light that's on until I think 11:30 above the dumpsters, if that's possible.
I'll let the applicant answer that.
Yeah.
I believe they plan to make a statement.
Okay.
Commissioner Garcia,
I also have.
you'll wait
Maybe-
first.
oh,
first. Okay.
Maybe we can,
You-
do you want to
Yeah,
save those to the, and then you can include those?
I mean, maybe it'll be appropriate for the applicant to answer as well, but I guess my curiosity is about the lighting map.
If, maybe we could show that on the screen. It's right at the beginning with the schedule and the maps. that
The
we
the
provided.
Candela map.
Oh, the foot candle map. Okay. With the values.
Yep.
All the different values. Go down one. Yeah. Oh, sorry. One more. One or two more. Maybe. Yeah.
Where exactly is the dumpster?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So if you're looking, you see the trapezoidal building that's next to the parking lot there in the lower right-hand side of that image. Yeah, down there.
This okay.
Yeah, in that area over there.
Is the currently installed location for the dumpster from the earlier photos accurate?
The early,
Sorry, the photos.
yeah,
Okay.
since those photos were taken were through phase 1 of construction. So it's not shown, but it's down in that corner.
In this corner where the mouse currently is. Yeah, I can't
Does
even
the
remember them.
applicant have a presentation?
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
It's a lower.
The light fixture 2, the one that's sort of in contention, where is it on this?
So that the trash enclosure will also have its own light fixture that will be on a twist timer.
Mhm.
Oh, sorry. The trash enclosure will also have a light within it with a twist timer so that the lighting will expire after a 10-minute time frame.
Yeah.
As far as the light pole, the closest light pole that was planned to be on till 11, it's more towards the middle of the parking lot. Just a little bit above the trash enclosure.
So roughly where BF1 is located, it's I don't know how to indicate with this on this thing. If you look at the second row of parking, that row, I presume number 2 is located a bit to the.
Yeah, number 2 is just below that in the hashed area, right? A little over right in the middle.
That's the 11 o'clock light fixture.
It's to the right.
No, it's to the right.
There's one light there, and then if you keep going along that line to the right.
Yeah.
in the
Where
next-
Right there.
BF1 is that they're right
Yeah.
there. What lighting contribution to the trash area is provided by BF or by this light fixture? Like the one that you're asking for it to be on for later.
Yeah.
How much light does it shine on the trash?
Well, it basically is a light for the employee's vehicle. It also allows them to get to the vehicle when they leave, when custodial staff leaves for safety reasons. There are parking stops and whatnot to be mindful of, but it also does light the entryway to the trash area as well.
Oh, okay.
To the enclosure.
And I guess I'm going to assume that the parking spaces closest to the trash are, I mean, some of them are handicapped, some of them are EV only.
It's the one across from the trash enclosure where your pointer is right now is where the custodian parks at night. So we want
I
to
see.
make sure that they have a safe path to travel to their vehicle when they leave.
And what are their typical hours?
So they typically work till 11:30 at night,
Mhm.
and they always do work. That's their scheduled time to work on site is
Okay.
till 11:30.
Thanks.
Sure.
If you have a further presentation,
Yeah, we do. Sure. And we'll just start with some introductions
Sure,
here. Drew, if you want to
Sure.
introduce
sure.
yourself, and then we'll just.
So my name is Drew Gammett. I'm an employee of the Cabrillo Unified School District.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry. Am I?
Please go ahead. You have 15 minutes
Okay.
for your presentation, and then we'll have questions for you.
Very good. Thank you very much. So my name is Drew Gammett. I'm the Bond Program Fiscal Project Director for the Cabrillo Unified School District. I'm here on behalf of our Superintendent, Ramon Miramontes, and our Board of Education. But since we've got 15 minutes, I'm going to pass it over to Roger.
Go ahead, Shannon. Go ahead, Shannon. Introduce yourself.
I'm Shannon Goolsby. I'm the lighting designer for the project. I work for O'Mani and Meyer, which is an electrical engineering firm.
Okay. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Roger Ancharchahar, Construction Manager for Cabrillo Unified School District. We've introduced everyone. The agenda for today is obviously the El Granada parking lot lighting, CDP number 2 on this project. Our next slide is the agenda is obviously introductions, evolution of the exterior lights in the project, a summary of the design evaluation and recommendation, and then followed by questions. The design team, Aaron Jobson's with QKA Architects. He is on Zoom with us at this time. O'Mani and Meyer, Shannon Goolsby's to the right of me, and we have Drew Gammett and myself. A little bit of the program schedule. This is the measure M&S bond measure and some of the projects that were done. The highlighted in orange is El Granada Phase 1, and we are actually closing out the project at this point. We completed in August and are working through the closeout process. So our final step is to try will be based on the outcome today. Timeline district lighting review meetings. Quite an effort that went into this. January 25th on 2024 CDP 1 was we had a forum at El Granada Elementary School to meet with the community, discuss the project. At that point, it was decided to bifurcate the parking lot lighting. We then had a 1024 board meeting. Parking lights were removed from the project. And then in January of 25, with new leadership, the board decided they wanted to reintroduce the parking lights because of the need that they felt was there. January 25th, the parking lights were officially reintroduced in a board meeting and approved. February 2025, we identified the need for a little more work with the outside consultant to work with the design team to come up with new solutions to lower light levels, lower the light poles and the quantities of lights. And then on March 6th, once we brought a new consultant on board, we had a evening community forum at El Granada in the MU, inviting the neighborhood, handing out flyers per the county's requirements, and having a sign-in sheet and everybody attend to discuss the project and potential options for improvement. Well, I have parking lot lighting, provide safety lighting for teachers, administrators leaving campus at night, as well as student drop-off for campus evening events. Maintenance operations, nightly activities. Custodian, as we discussed, is on site till 11:30. It's important that they are able to see for safety reasons and just many other reasons. Safety and security, proper lighting entrances, enhances safety, security, deterring criminal activity, and other things. Parking facilities, just worth noting, they're 7.3% of some of the incidents occur in parking lots. As far as crimes, parking lots are attractive nuisances. They can attract people, and it's a good idea to have lighting for visibility. Well, I have lighting in the parking lot, visibility deterrence. They improve visibility, helping to prevent accidents, as well as being able to deter potential intruders, traffic control. It will help with driving through the parking lot. Community use, school parking lots are sometimes used for community events. Proper lighting at night will help people be able to see where they're going safely. Do we need parking lot lights? These are all the steps that we went through after we saw the need for an additional consultant. We reached out to a number of people. There's 5 people, and then we selected a design consultant to assist the design team to improve some of the things to help the design meet the environment and the community's needs, and also be just more fine-tuned for that environment. Lighting design review. So we brought on James Benya, evaluated the current design, the initial design with the 7 poles. He visited the site the day before our forum. We inspected it during the day as well as at night. And then we had a community forum with the community to discuss our next step for lights and an open discussion of what the neighborhood would like to see and what we could do. At that point, no decisions were made, no adjustments had been made, but it was basically receiving information so we can work on revising design. One of the things was declaring the lighting zone 2 to zone 1, so the lighting levels were more appropriate for this specific community. New lighting operation plan, some of the things that came out of Jim Benya's study and modifications with the design team. We're going to be installing a twist timer at the trash enclosure with a 10-minute timer. And then we created 8 lighting zones for the parking lot lights and bollards. Parking lot lights, of course, being what we're discussing today. And all those lights are fully controllable and can be programmed to the light levels and timing that we've shown in prior slides. A little bit of the perspective in the parking lot. I have a perspective 1 from the top of the hill, that's to the right, and then a perspective 2, just kind of showing some of the views in the upcoming photos. So this is the existing parking lot conditions. This photo was taken before the forum on March 5th at 6:35 p.m. This is perspective 1, which is hard to, without being there once. It's the view from the uphill looking towards the ocean down the parking lot. And this is a view that teachers would see as they leave their classrooms at night, as they go to their car. And that teachers do work late sometimes. So this is a very real scenario. And then this is a view from inside the parking lot at 6:35 p.m. March 5th, looking in the opposite direction, but from within the parking lot. Okay, so this is March 10th this year, 8:12. This is the level of darkness that we're seeing. And then this is obviously perspective 1 to the left, the perspective 2 from the right, from within, looking towards the school. So then one more day showing the same perspective 1 and perspective 2, showing the darkness in the parking lot. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Shannon, our lighting designer. He can talk about some of the adjustments and things that the team went through to modify the design. Thank you.
So when we heard that the local community wanted the parking lot lighting to be addressed after our original design, we took it very seriously. Our office has now made multiple visits to the site, and we've been there at night. We did agree when we were there at night that it is a fairly dark location. And we also really respect the location along the coast, and we respect the request of the local community members, which there were multiple requests, and sometimes it was difficult to identify what the priorities were, but in general, there was a consensus that this community wanted low light levels. If they were going to have lighting in the parking lot at all, they wanted it to be as minimal as possible while still being safe within that specific context. So we redesigned the lighting that we had originally designed and gotten a permit for through DSA. We redesigned that lighting and basically began a dialogue with Roger and with the local community about where we saw that we should go with that design. And so one of the things we settled on was to follow the dark sky compliance principles kind of as stringently as we possibly could. The original design we did actually met dark sky requirements, but we didn't meet the most stringent goals of the dark sky requirements. So one of the things that we settled on in dialogue with the local community was using 2200 Kelvin as the color temperature, which is kind of a yellow, almost orange color. And that's recommended kind of if you're very serious about dark sky compliance, and especially if you're serious about the effect that nighttime lighting has on animals. You would either use amber, which is just yellow, or 2200 Kelvin. And we decided on 2200 Kelvin because it does still render colors other than yellow. And at that point, what it became for us as an engineering firm was finding ways to justify how to get the light levels as low as possible while still working within the confines of the codes and the standards that we're bound to work within as professionals. And in that regard, when Roger brought Jim Banya on, it was very helpful. He's helped to write dark sky compliance language recommendations over the years. And he was also very familiar with published standards within our industry that were a little more obscure than what we work with under normal conditions. So he helped us to find various ways to justify getting the light levels within the parking lot as low as we could possibly get them. And then kind of the third approach that we took while redesigning, which also Jim gave us some input on and agreed with, was to give the district as many control zones as was necessary for them to be able to turn off lighting that is objectionable to the neighbors in areas where it isn't necessarily needed at a certain time in the evening, but still maintain some lighting in the parts of the campus where it's critical. And one of the main areas, which I think you maybe are probably already aware of, is allowing the janitorial staff to move around the campus safely, and particularly to get out to the trash enclosure. So we identified that there was really one pole that was critical for them to be able to safely get to the trash enclosure. And then once they were at the trash enclosure, that pole is still quite far away. And when you walk into a trash enclosure, it has, it's an enclosure, it has walls, it has a door. So once you actually get to that enclosure, some of the light from that pole is going to be blocked. So we did add a floodlight with a twist timer within that trash enclosure. And the idea with that is that it's just off. And it would only be turned on when the janitorial staff goes out there. They activate the twist timer, and then the twist timer will automatically turn the light back off after a certain amount of time. We did that specifically because there were, concerns about how much light there was going to be at night, kind of after hours. Was it going to be left on, and so on.
Pardon me, through the chair, you do have 3 minutes left for your presentation.
Okay. Is there anything else we need to go through?
No, let's see. Just if you want to talk about the original and then the final.
The main differences between the original and the final were that the poles we used in the original, we used 7 poles to light the parking lot. They were taller.
25.
They were 25 feet tall, and they were higher powered. So the light levels in the parking lot were higher, and they were more even. One of the main things that Jim Banya helped us to justify was going outside of the usual uniformity requirements that we have to deal with for parking lots. Usually in parking lots, you want fairly even lighting. You want, a parking stall in this area to be lit similar to one over in this area. And with Jim's help, we identified that by saying that we were in lighting zone 1, it was okay for there to be a little bit lower uniformity within the parking lot. And that really allowed us to dramatically change the design, lower the poles, have lower light outputs, and accept that some of the parking spaces aren't going to be unlit, but they're going to be noticeably less bright than parking spaces in some other areas. Yeah.
Okay.
Is there anything else?
Just would add one of the reasons, other reasons for the light pole modifications was just being mindful of the neighbors across the street, trying to lower those pole heights to minimize any visual impacts.
Yeah, we wanted to get them as low as possible. The previous design did have shielding on the back side towards Santiago Street as well. But by lowering them, that makes the shielding even more effective.
Maybe you can talk a little bit about the shielding and what we're doing at each of the fixtures, especially along Santiago.
Sure. Well, and actually in this design, all 5 of the fixtures are shielded. Previously, I'd only put shields on the lighting along Santiago, but the shields lighting these days is a bunch of small LED diodes for parking lot lights. And the shields actually, they attach up to the fixture, and there's a small piece of hard plastic that sits behind the diode. And it means that the light really physically is blocked from going backwards very effectively. There can be a small amount of kind of refracted light, coming off of the glass that's around the diode and reflecting off of the kind of bottom of the luminaire. So you do get a small amount of light spilling back, and we want a tiny amount to come a little bit behind the pole because we did want to still light the drive aisle. But by the time you get a few feet behind the pole, it's very difficult to tell what the light levels kind of are on the street. There's a street pole out there right now that's unshielded. It will be putting dramatically more light onto the roadway than these will.
And Shannon, I do think like the sidewalk along Santiago does get a little lighting, basically lighting it a little bit more for pedestrian safety, but it doesn't trespass.
Yeah, a little bit. Our design, oftentimes we do aim to light a public sidewalk that abuts the property we're working on. In this case, we excluded that as a design goal because the criteria were so strict. So there may be a little bit of light going on to the public sidewalk, but it will be very small.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Questions for the applicant?
The twist light is also conforms with the 2200.
Yes.
The photos, none of the bollards have been installed yet. The photos that you gave aren't reflective of what the additional light from those bollards would, the already committed additional lighting.
You want to talk to that a little bit? So what the bollards contribute in terms of the lighting photometrics is the question.
Well, it's true that the photos didn't reflect the bollards. The bollards are currently installed. Are they functioning now all the way out to Santiago?
They are not on right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some of them on the campus are on.
Okay.
But there's still some work being
Correct.
done to bring them on all the way out to Santiago. Was that the question?
Yeah. So the photos don't show what the actual light from the bollards look
No.
like. Okay.
And I'll just clarify that the bollards obviously shine down, so they are from a 4-foot level down. I don't know if there's anything more to discuss on that, but the bollards were required as path of travel for the DSA project to meet their DSA's requirements.
Thank you.
What is the timing for the bollards?
So, no, I was just going to say, so they are in the process of being installed. Many of them are functional, but we're in terms of the finish work on the timing and the zones. That's what we're working on.
Okay, so the schedule is not yet set for the.
No, there is a slide that shows it was in a prior slide from the Planning Commission that showed the lighting zones, but there is a schedule that shows the bollards turning off by 7 p.m. Along the walkway.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And again, all lighting is fully programmable. We've created 8 zones so that it can be programmed to change to any time.
Thank you.
So the school, what time does the school start in the morning?
School starts at 8:10. Kids start showing up at 7:30, 7:45.
7:30.
Well, and
Is there a daycare there?
there is a daycare, yes. Yeah.
So do they come earlier than
The-
7:30?
The daycare starts at around 7:30. That they actually start receiving students at 8 o'clock, and then they are typically on campus till 5 to 5:30. But they also have employees that come in at night to do some extra work and stay caught up.
Okay, right. Because like during winter, even early in the morning,
Yes,
it's dark.
this is true.
Right.
Yes,
So safety is important.
it is.
Right.
And
So does the timing of the when the lights are on changes depending on the time of the year?
the lighting will change depending on the time of the year and is fully programmable. At this time, we have only programmed for night lighting.
Okay.
Yes. Out of sensitivity to the neighborhood. However, it can be dark in the mornings. Yes.
Okay. And in terms of whatever modernization, that's the term that's being used here,
Yes.
was approved earlier
Correct.
last year.
Yes.
That is complete.
Phase one is
Phase-
complete except for the parking lot lights. They were considered part of the part of phase one. So we are waiting, and there more than likely will be extra costs to do it, but the district would like to proceed with parking lot lights if at all possible.
Okay. But the parking lot is done.
The parking lot is done, yes.
Right.
And
But
the- and
this extra lighting
This
is part of phase two.
phase one, as part of phase one, we just could not proceed with it because we didn't have CDP approval. Now, depending on how things go, the district would proceed with putting the parking lights in, working with the contractor with any cost changes that may come up, but they are certainly committed to wanting the lights
Okay.
and installing them.
So in the staff report, I saw the poles, the 5 poles that are the posts.
Yeah.
What is it? Is 18 feet the standard?
Well-
how was that arrived at?
So I think that's a good technical question that Shannon has excellent detail.
It was arrived at by repeatedly asking me to lower the mounting height as far as it could possibly be. And again, that was something when Jim Bania, the dark sky consultant, was brought on. We had a number of discussions with him about sort of what's the kind of lowest mounting height we can get before we really start to have dark areas in the parking lot. And we also discussed using more poles, but having them at a lower height. And that seemed actually more objectionable to some people in the local community. So we focused on having the minimum number of poles and then getting them down as low as we could. And I use a software program that predicts what the light levels will be. So by running different calculations with the poles at different heights, we arrived at 18 feet.
Okay. And are there other posts that are same height? The ones on the inside?
There's
Which
only
are already-
5. There will be 5 there will be 5 poles with lights on them in the parking lot.
Right.
The rest of the campus won't have. Well, actually, there were some post tops that were put in as
Right.
part of a temporary, some portables.
Yes.
Some portables had to be brought in at a certain point, and we did put some post tops kind of over by the playground as part of a code requirement. And then
Right.
our drawings currently call to remove them when the safety. I don't know how in detail we want to
Yeah.
get here, but at some point we're calling for them to come out.
Once the interim housing, because we are still under construction with the second phase, once that interim housing goes away, the light goes away because of that path
Or
of travel.
the other lights,
The other
the
two
temporary lights
will
Ye-
go away.
Yeah.
will go.
The idea is that when this project is fully completed and the campus is modernized, there will only be 5 poles. They will all be in the parking lot. Everything else will be bollards, or it'll be mounted to buildings or canopies.
Right. Okay. You know, the school safety is so important these days. Right. I can see, and I really appreciate. I think it's great that you have reached out to the community on that. Okay. I have. Let's see. So the pictures that you had of the lighted at different times of the evening, yeah, it looks very dark without those lights.
It is.
Right.
And you know, it's worth mentioning the parking lot does have wheel stops, which it didn't before. Now it does, and they can pose a trip hazard.
Right. Okay. And so this ADA path lighting, this was done in earlier on.
As part of phase, the same phase, but we had to install that for the path of travel for the division of the state architect requirements.
Okay. So that is already
It
taken
is,
care of.
yes.
Right. Okay. Okay. So this being part of the scenic corridor, how much is this going to be visible from the highway?
I would say we've got a little bit of an interesting situation there, because if you're on Highway 1 going north from Half Moon Bay up to El Granada, there's the school, which is visible on so if you're driving north, it would be visible on the right. Adjacent to the school, so just past, there's another parcel, there's a road that then comes down into Highway 1, and right next to that is the fire station, Coastside Fire Station, and they have very bright lights for the fire trucks and whatnot. And so I think your eye kind of will still continue to go to that, even though there will be some minor lights, because you will see the bollards definitely up along because they run a path that's next to the Coastside Trail. But the lighting poles, I think, will be your eye's going to get drawn to something else for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So it won't be as big a distraction. That's
Well,
what you are saying.
And there are cars going north and south on one. Not that it makes it, but there are quite a few lights going up and down the road, and there are lights on one sporadically as well.
And then I would say that your other big lighting feature from that area would be the harbor up in for El Granada.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your questions, for the answers. Yeah. Okay. Any further questions? No. Okay. So, thank you. So now we'll open the public comments for this item. Madam Clerk, please proceed.
Thank you, Chair. And I would like to note that written comments for this item were received yesterday, and that was circulated to the commission. And there was additional correspondence received this morning that will be made part of the administrative record. And we don't have anybody wishing to speak in chambers, but I do have a few hands on Zoom. So I will first call on Dan Haggerty, followed by Kimberly Hines. You will have 5 minutes.
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes. This whole lighting plan has dramatically changed since it was initially offered to the MCC. By the way, my name's Dan Haggerty, El Granada, 35-year resident, strong advocate for dark skies and 13-year former Mid-Coast Community Council member. Again, this proposal has changed, dramatically, and I want to thank for the 2200K amber lighting. I many times expressed to have as the lowest possible intensity of any lighting. I'm not going to say that I'm 100% happy with everything. It's not over yet. But I will say at this point in time, I think that it is extremely reasonable, and it's in alignment with the 5 principles of responsible lighting published by the Dark Sky International and the IES, the industry agreement of the 5 principles of responsible lighting. One of them is to only have the light on as truly needed for a true need. Now, this light staying on, one pole staying on till 11, is arbitrary. It's just going to sit there, light on all night long, while the majority of the time the custodians will be inside the building. So I understand that the need for access, at the end of the shift, etc., going to the dumpster. I understand that, but I think it's extremely reasonable and in alignment with the principle of only as needed, that there should be either a time switch somewhere that's convenient, appropriate, as the custodians leave to their car or to the dumpster, that can be turned on, or an appropriate motion sensor that could be in the path of where the custodians will be, exiting the campus. I believe this is very doable, very simple, and this way the switch would override that light, and it would only come on when there's a true need of somebody actually walking into the parking lot or going to the dumpster. So I strongly urge, I think I heard Camille say earlier that she believes that these requests will be granted, and I just want to hear it from the designers that this will be implemented. Again, I think it's extremely reasonable under these circumstances, and there's still a lot of light impact. As much as they did to minimize it, there still is lighting impact, reflection off of the concrete. The concrete should have been a darker color, so to minimize the reflection, impacting the ocean views and visually from the scenic corridor. So please make this happen somehow. I know it can be done. They also have wireless capability now for switches to make it more convenient for location. And I'll leave it up to the designers to choose the location of a time switch or a motion sensor for the intention of minimizing the light being on, and only when it's needed, a true need. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now call on Kimberly Hines.
Thank you. This is Kim Hines. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you so much. I picked up on the questions regarding what the light looks like now with bollards. And if you reference the combined correspondence towards the bottom, you'll find 3 photos. One was taken from in front of Wilkinson School on the street, and you can see the light reflecting up off of the sidewalk. And then one showing where the lights are not yet on it. Like if you were to look at the plan view of the parking lot, there's like an S curve, basically from where the trash cans are around the building and up to Palma. And those bollards will be at the same interval. So the bollards are going to help the parking lot. And I really appreciate how much work the district has done and the designers on iterating in the right direction. It's very much appreciated. I do live directly across the street, and that perimeter sidewalk is intrusive at night, reflecting up off the sidewalk to all of our bedrooms. The light at night varies depending on the moon. On a moonlit night, you can walk comfortably throughout the neighborhood. And when you don't have a moon, it's really dark. But when you have a row of lights between the hillside of El Granada, and it's not just Santiago, but if you stood on that sidewalk and looked back up at the hill, any lights that you would see at night from a house, you can see they would have vistas across the parking lot. I drove up El Granada Boulevard, and I can see the lights of the firehouse in a row. And so there's different sight lines that I think we need to be mindful of. I absolutely want the teachers to be comfortable entering and exiting the building. And I think that overall the upgrades for the school have been very, very helpful. My ask would be that the Planning Commission require inspection and tests before releasing the district's use of the light poles. The design is a custom design, and there is not a verification step on those drawings to know that they meet the intent of the designers. In good faith, I know the designers have done an excellent job. I'm sure of it. But knowing that Farallon View light poles went in and they were not as to be expected, and that all they could do was dim the lights. At the last Mid-Coast Community Council meeting, when one of the committee members asked if the lights would be dimmable after installed, the answer was no. So they've got to get it right the first time when it goes in. Again, I thank you very much for all of the work you've done in the right direction. Appreciate curfew as early as possible to maintain dark sky, because there's a cumulative effect throughout the Mid-Coast region with all of the different lighting projects that have gone in. This parking lot, these lights are visible from up the hill, from you driving up Alameda, there's a grade. And so you're coming down the street, and rather than see moonlight on the ocean, you're going to see this row of bollards at 7 p.m. And so, okay, that's fine, but they definitely need to be off at night. And the last 2 nights they've been on continuously until morning. So thank you for taking my comments. And I do agree with Mr. Haggerty that as an engineer, there is a feasible solution to do a dial or a switch that would leave the number 2 light pole on for 15 minutes and not have it on continuously until custodians leave. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I will now call on our last speaker, David Ron.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, my name is David Ron. I'm a parent of 2 students at El Granada Elementary. I'm also, I was a member of the school site council, and we helped work with the school district and the principal to get this plan done. I attended the meetings that were discussed earlier, and I'm also a community member in El Granada, living here for 14 years. I'd just like to point out that a lot of the discussion that's been happening has been coming from the neighbors, which I understand their concerns, but they're neglecting the safety of the school and its employees. So what we hear is, yes, this is all good. Safety is fine, but, and I think the but should not be neglected here. And the reason why that one light was left on till 11 is for the safety of that custodian, to help them not have to fumble around to figure out when to light it and not. This is one light only. We've eliminated all the other lights at night. Also, let's remember that there are continuous street lights in this neighborhood across the street that go all night. So it's not like this is some dark field that's going to have one light shining above forever. This is just a new light in conjunction with all these other lights, including the highway and everything else. So just to sum up, I think that the schools is very concerned about this issue. We appreciate that it's being heard right now, and we'd like to get it done so we can keep our teachers and our students safe. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, Chair, we have no further comment for item 2.
Sorry. Do commissioners have any comments or deliberations? Commissioner.
Yeah, sure. I wasn't here for the earlier review of this project, so this is I'm getting caught up on the history here. But it does seem like the school district and the designers have put in a lot of good faith effort to meet the community with what they're requesting, and I appreciate the work that's been done. I know that lighting is extremely important. I live on the other side of the peninsula, and we are also, for safety reasons, are requesting additional lighting in places that we walk. And I know that in the United States, our pedestrian deaths have risen significantly compared to the rest of the rich world over the past 15 years. And most of the deaths that have occurred where other countries are still improving and the United States is falling behind has been at night. And it's due to lack of visibility, also very large vehicles. And I think it's important, especially at a school, that we have adequate lighting for everyone that's working there or attending, while also respecting the community's dark sky goals, which is one of the features of that area. And so I appreciate the work that's been done.
Commissioner Garcia.
Thanks. I also appreciate the significant efforts made to reduce the number of lights and the presence of lights, the height, and so on and so forth. I am still a bit concerned about the one light that's being left on for a few reasons. One, the rationale offered was a facility to get to the vehicle for custodial staff. When we discussed the custodial staff's hours, you note the light's going to go off at 10 or 11, and the staff will stay until 11:30, which sort of disengages the rationale for the light with the function that it's serving. I do think that that a slightly adjusted lighting, maybe schedule or trigger, could help. One where if you have a twist timer for the trash elements, perhaps a fully programmable light schedule could also activate the corresponding pillar light that for vehicle access. That way, it could potentially go on at an hour where the departing custodial staff would benefit from its light, but it would also not be guaranteed on for the duration. You would have it when you need it, and it would be off otherwise. So I don't know if something like, I suspect something like that is possible, and I would be sort of open to hearing something like that. I don't know if at this point can they still comment, or is it just us?
Yeah.
With permission of the chair,
Please-
commissioners can
Please direct
ask
them on a
questions
bit.
of applicants, yes.
Go ahead.
Maybe we could help clarify.
Yeah.
If that helps. The 11 o'clock shut off on EF1 was done as in being considerate of the neighbors and trying to shorten the time as much as possible. While they are supposed to be on site at 11:30, they sometimes finish early. So the 11 o'clock just seemed like a better time. So there certainly was inconsistency there, but that was the rationale behind it.
Would it be possible to tie that post's light schedule to the twist? Are they all the same system? Can you link the light behaviors across from the twist timer?
I'm going to let Shannon handle that one. It's definitely technical.
So
Yes.
we wouldn't want the same twist timer that's in the trash enclosure to be controlling that pole. The purpose of that pole mounted light, one of the purposes, is to allow the staff to get safely to that area. That the parking lot in that area would be lit. So I think from a design perspective, we don't want to force you to get all the way to the trash enclosure and open it before you can turn that light on. We did discuss the possibility of switching all the pole mounted lighting to be controlled from the admin building, which is in a different increment. And Roger, I don't know if you're no.
Electrical.
We did in one of the updates, we put a pole box in with the intention in increment 1, with the intention that it could be used to feed the pole lighting back into the admin building. Do you know if they actually installed that?
Yeah, that is the plan to follow that, to follow that criteria.
So this question came up earlier, and we ran into the issue of it being impractical for janitorial staff to have to go back to the new classroom building if they wanted to turn anything in the parking lot on. Our sense of that situation was that they would probably just go there and turn it on for as long as they could. And that we should give them that ability because it's pretty inconvenient. It's the other side of the campus. So the discussion from a technical standpoint became, well, if we were going to give the janitorial staff this ability, it should be happening in the admin building. That's actually where this ability makes the most sense functionally, but also it's beside the parking lot. So if the janitorial staff was kind of moving from one side of the campus towards the trash enclosure, it wouldn't be nearly as difficult for them to stop into the admin building and turn the parking lot lights on. So it should be possible if that pull box is there for us to essentially redirect the parking lot lighting. It's going to, for a little while, right now, the admin building is gutted. So there's no ability really to control the parking lot lighting from there at this time. It needs to be controlled from the new classroom building. And I think it's going to be controlled probably pretty close to the schedule Roger gave you. But when the admin building gets completed, it is possible for us to redirect all the circuits for the parking lot lighting into the admin building and control the parking lot poles from there. It's just a matter of cost. It's going to add cost. This whole thing has added a lot of cost. I'm sure Drew could speak more to that, but it's not, this isn't like $1,000 item. That amount of conductors and also that amount of labor to kind of, take trenches through the areas they're going to have to go through. It's going to be in the tens of thousands.
Yeah.
And I'm just stating that as a fact.
No, it
Actually,
is. It is absolutely. And just to expand upon that, the lighting control, the original lighting control panel is full in capacity. So when we added the 8 zones, the change in plan was to add an additional lighting control panel in the admin building that's currently under construction. So that is certainly another aspect of cost that's taking place, but it's also aligns with being able to control the 8 zones closer to the parking lot area.
Okay, thank you.
So, like one of the speakers was saying that they were not talking about this project, but that when they found out that, oh no, this cannot be controlled, so this could happen in this project also. That the timing that we see listed in the project report, so that is kind of fixed, and it's not changeable.
The time is fully adjustable at any time the district
Okay.
chooses to adjust
But
it.
it cannot be changed while the janitors are working? Is that what you're saying?
It's pre-programmed. The question about whether the closest light pole can have almost a manual function, that I really can't answer, because
Yes,
that's what
it can.
it can. Okay.
It
Yeah.
currently does. There is right now, well, when it gets installed, there will be a series of switches in the electrical room for the new classroom building. So we have a lighting control panel that has an astronomical time clock in it. That's kind of the brain. But then before the power gets out to the poles, they get run through a bank of switches. I'm oversimplifying this for you, by the way, but just so it makes sense kind of conceptually how it works, they go through a bank of switches, and it's fairly easy. Those switches should be labeled. It's fairly easy if you have access to the electrical room to go in there and manually turn really any of the exterior lighting on and off. There's quite a few of those switches at this time because so much of the campus is circuited back to the new classroom building, but they will be, anyone who uses them regularly will know what switch they need to go to. It's going to have a label on it, and they could manually turn really pretty much any of the exterior lighting on the new classroom building or anywhere on the campus that's been built so far on or off manually from within the electrical room in the new classroom building. And so we can do a similar thing in the admin building. And we even discussed not putting that switch for that one pole, not putting it in the electrical room, but possibly actually putting it in the admin area because that's even more convenient. I'm ultimately going to defer to the district on that if we do go that way exactly where they want it. But yes, switches are definitely what we're providing to override this lighting.
Okay. No, I'm sure you'll figure out something that works for your janitorial staff and is safe. And the lighting arrangement works out for them because they can't work in the dark.
No.
What solution do you have if they stay till 11:30?
Well, if we can't leave the light on till 11, that the solution would be for them to manually turn on that pole and then manually turn it off. But basically at this point, it could be programmed to stay on up to a certain time that's acceptable. And if it needs to manually be operated after that point, we can use the switch. And we can certainly train custodial and facility staff on how to use that switch and even isolate it so that's very easily to find and clear.
I mean, it just seems like if that's going to be the solution in a number of cases, I don't know how frequently they stay past 11. Why not make it the standard?
For
if you're going to have, if custodial staff stays past 11, past when the light is shut off.
Yes.
And the accommodation for a late operating time.
Yes.
Is custodial control of the light switch. I don't know how frequent they stay past 11. But if you're going to make this a thing that you're going to train them to do, why not make it the standard, and then you would be able to even further restrict the amount of light when not when it's not relevant.
When you say standard, are you saying other, and what do you mean as
He's
far as?
asking if the time clock
Oh.
could sweep that light off earlier.
Oh,
And
Yes.
then it would only be manually controlled by the custodial staff if they want it on at a later
oh.
time.
Okay.
That exclusively.
That can be done.
That can be done.
Yes, it can be done. If you want to repeat it just clearly that way, it's,
Right.
Yeah.
My main point with that, what you're asking can be done.
Yeah.
But
We recommend doing it from the admin building,
okay.
and that's going to add cost.
So
So-
the admin control was not a thing that you're
The admin control was something we discussed, and we put in a pull box that would allow us to not have to tear up the parking lot at a later date in order to do it. But we haven't actually shown that in the phase 2 plans yet. That's not actually part of those drawings, and added in would add cost. So I think it's just a relevant point to note that it is additional cost in order to do that.
Can I just be clear on what you have and have not done? So you have put in an extra pole box.
Yeah.
You have not. It is not in any plan currently to do a pull to the admin building.
It is not yet.
The
no.
only control for the light would be from the new classroom building.
As it's currently designed. I mean, essentially, we have 2 phases here, and our main focus has been this phase, which is the first increment, because it contains the parking lot lights. And we've primarily, any changes we've been doing to the drawings have been focused on that. So as part of that, we did anticipate that we might need to redirect control of the parking lot lighting to the admin building. So we did show a pull box in one of the changes that we made, but we haven't yet made any changes to the phase 2 drawings to reflect anything else.
So just a little while ago, when you were describing there being dual control, one from the new classroom building and the other one from the admin building,
I apologize. I didn't mean dual control.
like power control from the admin building, like astronomical clock control from the admin building,
Right.
and a secondary power override from the astronomical clock control from the new classroom building, and an override potentially from the admin building.
I'm
But that
sorry.
override does not exist.
I must have misspoken. That wasn't actually, when I was describing the way that the control was going to work, I was describing the way it works as designed right now, where everything runs through the new classroom building.
And nowhere else.
And nowhere else. That's
Okay.
the way it's designed right now. If we switch the parking lot lighting over to be controlled from the admin building, it will not be possible to control it from the new classroom building.
Okay.
We'll abandon all those switches. They'll probably pull all the conductors out that were used to do that, and then they'll have to put new conductors, run a new trench over to the admin building, and essentially we'll be adding some exterior lighting control zones into the admin building, and we'll have the switches for the poles located in the admin building then as well.
Thank you.
I have a question about the switching. So if somebody were to turn off the light manually with the switch, would they have to turn that switch back on manually for it to be able to be lit with the programming?
Yes.
Okay, so you can't just go and turn it off and then or turn it on without having to do it
It will come
manually.
back on at dusk.
It will come
It will
back on.
come back on. The astronomical time clock does have on-off programming.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, that one light that we're talking so much about, the pole-mounted light that's there for the janitorial staff that we've been talking about leaving on at 11, 30 minutes before dusk, the astronomical time clock will turn that light on no matter what. And it's going to turn most of the exterior lighting on at that time as well. So no one has to activate a switch. An astronomical time clock is just going to, 30 minutes before dusk, the campus is going to be lit. And then Roger's schedule is describing that at various times, that time clock is going to drop certain zones off. In the midst of that time, if you manually use a switch to turn any of that exterior lighting off, it will not come back on again until 30 minutes before dusk the next day.
Okay.
It resets.
Okay, thank you. That was helpful.
Thanks.
Okay, so is it clear?
Yes, that's clear now.
You understand that. Director Manovitz, did you want to add anything?
Well, I appreciate the discussion. I think it reflects a desire to achieve the right balance between public safety and respecting night sky views. And really appreciate the efforts of the school district to work with the community to achieve the right balance. So, I think staff is at the same point of being in a position to recommend approval of the requested permits for the project.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Yeah. No, I agree that you have put in a lot of thought and reached out to the community to come up with this right balance of lighting and maintaining dark skies to the community's desire. So, can I have a motion, please?
Sure, I'll make a motion to for the following recommendations. Do I need to read these off, or can I just
Yeah.
reference? Okay.
The bottom part.
Okay, that the Planning Commission approve an amendment to the project permits, including CDP use permit, design review permit, and resource management permit by making findings and adopting the conditions of approval in attachment A.
Second.
Oh, you
No,
second
no,
it?
no. Do I have a second?
Sure. Yes.
Thank you. That was a motion by Commissioner Nugent and a second by Commissioner Garcia. Commissioner Garcia,
Aye.
Commissioner Nugent,
Aye.
Chair Gupta.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
We'll take a 5-minute break.
It is 10:23. We will resume at 10:28.
Good morning. We are back. We'll now move on to item 3. Madam Clerk, please introduce the project and the planner.
Thank you. This is an information item only. The Housing Element Rezoning Program, and your project planner is William Gibson.
Thank you, Angela. Good morning, commissioners. Good morning, Mr. Monowitz and Mr. Fox. As Angela indicated, this is an information item only. This is an informational briefing and kickoff for the Planning Commission on the county's housing element rezoning program. There we go. Yes, okay. Just a little slow to catch up. And our consultants who are managing this project, MIG, are here and are going to give the bulk of this presentation. I'm just going to offer a little bit of background on the housing element itself, on the necessity of updating the housing element and how we got to this rezoning program. And then I'll turn it over to them and they will carry the rest of this presentation forward. So just to start off, just a brief recap on what is the housing element. Housing element is a part of the county's general plan. It's required by state law and it establishes the policies and programs that are required to meet the county's quantified housing need for all types of housing, all types of residents at all income levels. We must update the housing element on a schedule that is also established by state law. Currently, that's every 8 years. And the content and the update process are also regulated by state law in an increasingly strict fashion with each new housing element update cycle. And the updated housing element must also be submitted to the state, to the Department of Housing, and it must be approved by the state. What the housing element must do during the update process, we must assess the capacity of all available sites for housing element. We must demonstrate that we as a county in the unincorporated areas have sufficient capacity to meet the need that the state and the Association of Bay Area Governments and Metropolitan Transportation Commission determine our share of the regional housing for the 9-county Bay Area. So the state to meet that capacity shortfall. And the sites that we select for rezoning must meet a variety of criteria that are established in the law in order to be approved by HCD, the Department of Housing and Community Development. And by law, we cannot forego the rezoning. We do not have an option not to rezone. We are committed to this program, whether in the case of many jurisdictions, whether we or they, any jurisdiction likes it or not. And just to show, and so, but in short, the county did not have sufficient sites. We could not demonstrate that we had development capacity sufficient to meet our need. So we are committed to a rezoning program that was considered and adopted by the Board of Supervisors as part of the housing element adoption itself. And this is just a brief overview of where we landed with that assessment. Our total arena number, the need that we were allocated, is shown in the left-hand column by income level. The units that we actually had on developable sites that are already existing is in the next column. So we had a deficit of 964 units across all income levels, and we have identified an additional 1,500 units of capacity on the rezoning sites. So we have basically we now have a surplus across all income categories if we proceed with the identified rezonings. And just briefly touching on the selection criteria, these are also specified in state law. We have to consider a number of factors in where we identify areas for rezoning. Is there sufficient infrastructure? Are there resources? In some cases, proximity to transit is a key criteria. They must be in diverse areas across the entirety of the county, diverse in terms of geography, socioeconomic factors, physical diversity. We cannot over-concentrate housing in any one community or given area. We attempt to look for areas that are adjacent to other residential and mixed-use development or already zoned for residential uses. And then there are a variety of other site location and size criteria for the sites that we're allowed to consider for rezoning that are established in the lot. And so that's just a brief overview of where we are and how we got here. I will turn it over momentarily to MIG, but I just want to point out we've gotten a number of comments, which Angela will note when we get to the public comment section. This is not an action item for the Planning Commission. This is informational only. This is a kickoff of this process, not the end of it. It will come before you on a number of other occasions and then reach the board as well. I just want to allay any fears on the part of the public that this is something that is moving forward quickly or an action is being taken now. That's not the case. It's purely informational to provide an opportunity for the commissioners to have comments on the process and for the public to be informed and have comments as well. And with that, I'll turn it over to Dana Ayers from MIG. Thank you.
Thank you, Will. Acting Chair Gupta, members of the commission. My name is Dana Ayers. I work with the firm MIG. I'm here representing the firm that has been selected to support the county's efforts in implementing the rezoning program. Will provided background for how we got here today, and what I wanted to talk about going forward is what the next steps are. So just as a reminder, I know the commissioners have probably been familiar with this and are aware of the housing element process. I'm sure many of you were involved in it. In adopting the housing element, the Board of Supervisors also adopted Housing Element Program 1112, which committed the county to implementing a rezoning effort for 4 particular areas within San Mateo County. Broadmoor, unincorporated Colma around the Colma BART station, parcels in El Granada that are currently vacant and owned by the school district, and parcels in Harbor Industrial area just near Belmont. The purpose of the rezoning program is to implement higher densities and increase development potential so that the county can accommodate its shortfall for its assigned allocation of housing. The program also commits the county to adopting objective design standards and implementing those standards as a way to streamline housing approval processes, allowing those standards to facilitate staff level review so that housing can be entitled more quickly, but standards can be maintained. The desired densities, or the densities to which the Board of Supervisors committed, range from 70 to 120 units an acre for most of the parcels. Absolute minimum of 30 units an acre, and that's so that the county can ensure that certain densities are achieved that are affordable, will allow affordable housing development. Commitments in the program also included eliminating residential floor area ratio and a minimum lot area per unit standards. Minimum lot area per unit standards basically translate to density. Removing minimum lot sizes for attached multifamily ownership projects, as well as reducing setback standards for front, side, and rear yards. And this is across all 4 of the project areas. Additional commitments were to reduce parking ratios to a maximum of 1 space per unit. Obviously, developers who are building in these areas could offer more, but the maximum requirement would be 1 space per unit. To increase building heights to at least 60 to 70 feet or otherwise as necessary to accommodate the density that's assigned to a given parcel. Limiting floor area of mixed-use development to a maximum 20%. And allowing emergency shelters by right, subject to objective standards as allowed by state law in the unincorporated Colma area. So the 4 sites we'll go over very briefly. The first of these is the Broadmoor site furthest north. The site is located on 87th Street near Sullivan Avenue. It's currently developed with an auto detail business and a convenience store. It is generally near the Colma BART station, less than a mile. It's also near the, same distance to the Samtrans bus center and park and ride lot. So it's somewhat transit accessible. It's also near Daly City BART, although not within a quarter mile. The uses, again, are mostly commercial, but it is surrounded by other commercial uses that are a little more service-based, but also some single-family homes, as well as multifamily homes on the other back end of the property. So it's a small area within Broadmoor, but surrounded by quite a range of uses. The unincorporated Colma site encompasses the Colma BART station along El Camino Real and A Street, generally in that area. It includes the BART station itself and the rail yards, but also includes several developed parcels that are currently built with multifamily housing, some single family lots as well. There are also, similar to the Broadmoor area, there are some commercial uses within the area to be rezoned. The El Granada site is the only site that's located within the coastal area. The site consists of 6 parcels located between Coral Reef Avenue and Sevilla Avenue. They are undeveloped. As I mentioned, they are owned by the school district. They abut single-family residential uses and open space parcels. And as I mentioned, it's currently undeveloped. It's with grasses and quite a bit of tree cover. And then the last of the 4 sites to be rezoned is what we call Harbor Industrial Site. This site encompasses 5 parcels along Old County Road. It is near the Caltrain station at Belmont, other B word, Belmont Caltrain station. The uses on site, it is developed, and existing uses on site include a self-storage facility. There are other commercial uses. There's a commercial building with restaurant and food service uses on the ground floor and office uses upstairs. So there are a variety of uses on the parcels themselves, and it's surrounded by other multifamily high density uses, as well as some lower density uses as you get further into the neighborhood, kind of to the north. Along with writing zoning code amendments, general plan amendments, and Colma station area plan amendments that may be necessary to implement these density standards and the commitments in the housing element program, MIG is also going to be working to prepare with county staff to prepare an environmental impact report that will analyze the potential impacts of build out at the densities that are described in the housing element program. As is required by state law, there will be multiple opportunities for the public to provide comment, both during this rezoning process and in the parallel, because they will be happening together, the parallel environmental analysis process. Before we start writing the EIR, there will be a scoping period, which is a 30-day period when the public will be invited to provide feedback on the scope of the analysis that should be included in the EIR. If there's any particular issues that need to be brought to the surface, that's an opportunity for the public to speak early during the environmental analysis process. Once the draft EIR has been written, there will be a second opportunity for the public to comment on the analysis itself while it's in draft form, and to comment on any mitigation measures. If there are impacts that our analysis concludes could result from rezoning these parcels to higher densities, those would be disclosed in the draft EIR. And there would be mitigation measures that would be identified to help reduce the severity of those impacts. At the end of the process, the EIR must be certified by the Board of Supervisors. Once it is certified, it could help implementing the county's efforts to streamline future development. No development is proposed with this project at this time. This is strictly a rezoning effort. But the EIR, once it's certified, could help to disclose impacts of future development. And so it could help those processes to move a little bit quicker as well, because they can rely on the analysis of that EIR. This is our approximate timeline. As I noted, we're working with county staff to draft some preliminary outlines of code amendments. Those will be analyzed in the draft EIR, and that process, the scoping period process that I mentioned, will kick off next month and will run through December. Following that, we'll come back with an opportunity for the public to provide comment on the amendments themselves. And the anticipated adoption date would be in July. Because these are zoning code amendments and general plan amendments, they would come back before this body for recommendation before moving on to the Board of Supervisors for final adoption. So just to wrap up, a reminder of the program objectives and what we are striving to accomplish with implementing this program is to facilitate housing opportunities in unincorporated San Mateo County. The objective is to streamline housing approval entitlements for home builders. There is a benefit in terms of saving time and costs for home builders, but there's also a benefit in terms of staff time that's saved because standards are predefined by the community and by decision makers. And the value is in staff being able to have those standards and to be able to review development applications more efficiently and more quickly. We aim to create objective design standards that county staff can use, but that will also uphold quality of aesthetics and design that the community desires to see. And the objective design standards will augment the existing development standards as they may be amended through this process. So they'll be in addition to any height limitations, setback standards that are already within the zoning regulations. But it's also an opportunity for the county to revise, revisit, and modernize standards that may impede housing development, such as parking, building heights, floor area standards, and setbacks. I would normally wrap up with do you have questions for us? But we also want to know if we have a question for you, and we would like to also know what are most important things to you as we craft these amendments. So I will be happy to answer any questions, though, that you do have, and staff, I'm sure, can answer questions as well. But we also would like to take this opportunity to get early feedback from the community on this process.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Garcia? You have questions for
the subsequent reviews by this body would be just prior to submission to the Board of Supervisors, or are there any other touch points?
We will be coming back, I believe, in December for the scoping the EIR scoping process. So that, as I mentioned, is the initiation of the EIR process. So that will be the first opportunity to.
It will be purely informational as well. Or?
It'll be an opportunity for feedback as well. The purpose of the scoping period is for the public to provide input on what the EIR analysis should include. If there's any information that the public or community or any of you feel may be beneficial to the analysis in the EIR, that can be brought forward at that time. And then there will be another opportunity during the EIR comment period. Do you have another, is that your process?
I think we intend, the scoping session will be the next formal step that the Planning Commission will hear this information. But in the interim between the actual draft amendments reaching you for your comment and recommendation, we will provide interim updates as well. Those would be informational, although we would take comment, but then won't be formal action. The next opportunity for formal action would actually be once the drafts are created.
Mm-hmm.
Could you put that slide back up where you had shown certain timelines? Yeah. So will the things you mentioned, is any of that up here? That will come
The
back.
informational, those are those will happen throughout the process, and we can plug them in. But we have not the dates at which we would come for informational briefings, and we may be going to the board with informational briefings as well. But that depends on the process of the progress of the project as we move forward.
Okay. Let's leave this here. Go ahead.
I have two questions. One is regarding the objective design standards. Will they be applicable throughout the county, or are they specific to these rezoned sites?
Specific to the rezoning districts, although there is a parallel effort ongoing on the part of the county to, and this is also under a lot of direction from new state laws that are pushing all jurisdictions to achieve objective standards. We are working on a longer time frame on seeing if we can accomplish that more broadly, but these are on a much faster timeline and are very specific to the project areas.
Okay. And then my other question is, I know with the Colma BART station site and probably the Belmont Caltrain state site are upzoned through SB 79, which was recently signed. How does that affect this with the EIR and yeah?
This is an excellent question, but to our surprise, we did not realize this initially. Unincorporated areas are not subject to SB 79 until 2030. So it doesn't impact us until the next housing element cycle, which arguably that could be good, that could be bad, because this could help us with our housing needs at present, but we do not get the benefit of that until the next housing element cycle.
Okay, so we would still have to go through the EIR process.
Correct, that's correct, yes.
Okay.
Although I'd like to just put a caveat about that. We've, and also with regard to the entire timeline here, this housing element update cycle has been extremely challenging for a number of Bay Area jurisdictions, San Mateo County included. And we've been working very hard over the course of the last few years to comply with new state requirements and mandates. And we are still getting significant pressure from State Department of Housing and Community Development to complete this as quickly as possible. And in that regard, we have been seeking guidance from HCD about some of the CEQA exemptions that have recently been put into law. And unfortunately, we haven't gotten clear guidance from them regarding whether or not some of these rezonings could actually qualify for an exemption. So the plan that you heard today is indeed the plan, unless we can obtain confirmation from the state that we would qualify for certain exemptions. The other thing I'd like to just quickly note, because I know we got a lot of correspondence from folks regarding the rezoning proposed on the coast side, and I won't be surprised if we'll hear public comment about that today. One of the new requirements that we had to address in this round of our housing element update is promoting fair distribution of affordable housing. In other words, neither the state nor the county, for that matter, want to concentrate all the affordable housing development in one area. It needs to be spread out to be able to properly serve all the neighborhoods of our unincorporated community. And in that regard, and also due to the challenges in finding sites where we could accommodate affordable units, and more units, not only affordable, we really had to look at the coast side. And I think it's important for this commission, as well as the interested parties, to understand that the proposed rezoning on the coast side will have to go through the California Coastal Commission's local coastal program amendment process. And through that process, we will have to demonstrate that the proposed rezonings are compliant with all aspects of our local coastal program, including those that protect sensitive habitats, that require the intensity of development to be compatible with the available level of public service capacity. So there are certainly a number of challenges we still face ahead, and I wouldn't want the commission or any of the interested public to think that we are by any means trying to skirt those requirements. There's going to be a lot of work required to ensure that the rezoning, particularly on the coast side, complies with all the relevant requirements. So I'll leave it at that for the moment, but I might have more to say. Will, is there anything you'd like to?
Just through the chair, I might add on to what Steve is saying. In our mind, yeah, we are very cognizant of the sensitivity of the coastside sites and the challenges of those sites and the distinct nature of the coastside. The Belmont sites, the Colma sites, and the Harbor Industrial sites are sites that are adjacent to or already contain multifamily housing. They have a mix of higher density uses already. The new zoning that we are likely to propose for those sites is probably going to be pretty similar across those areas because they have a great deal of similarity. The coast is entirely different, and the type of zoning we intend to propose and the protections of resources, the buffering of neighbors, the variation of densities and heights that we intend to allow will be distinctly different and will be calibrated to take into account the sensitivity, the adjacent uses, protect open space, have open space buffers, and a lot of other components that will be intended to address those. It will not be the same kind of high intensity, high density housing that we are likely to propose in the other areas. So I think it's just important that we are all be aware that is a unique site, and it does have unique challenges and unique resources that require protection, and the process will incorporate that level of scrutiny and protection.
Thanks, Will. And I would just add, I don't think that this was mentioned in the presentation. The coastside area proposed for rezoning that's owned by the school district currently has a portion of that site designated specifically for affordable housing. So we have been contacted by the school district in prior years interested in discussing the possibility of pursuing expansion of that area to accommodate affordable housing, teacher housing potentially. So while certainly no decisions have been made yet regarding that, there is a basis under which we have selected that site as a spot that is worthy of further evaluation.
Thank you, Steve. That brings me just, this may or may not be the right time to ask that, but where does this Cypress Point come in? Is that part of this cycle or previous cycle?
The Cypress Point project has the number of units that will be provided by that has already accounted for in prior cycles. So yes, we could not rely on that project for this cycle.
Okay. Thank you. And that's moving ahead.
Yes, as quickly as possible. And actually, I have an update on that during the director's report.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it just came to my mind. So Commissioner Nugent, go ahead if you have any further question.
No,
Question.
yeah,
got
those were my
answered?
questions. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm just trying to understand what this process is. I understand that this is cycle 6.
Correct.
Of the housing element here, and so the previous cycles were taken care of. Did we meet them?
We were able to identify sufficient. So our arena, I would say, at the kind of meta level, we were allocated a significantly larger number this cycle than in any prior cycle, and so were every other jurisdiction. An increase that we did not think was reasonable, quite frankly, but we are bound to accommodate what the state tells us to accommodate. In the prior cycle, it was a much lower number for our regional housing needs allocation. We were able to meet it without rezoning any sites through sites we already had existing for development. And the development that was projected to meet that arena did not all occur, but we came fairly close over the cycle. Significant amounts of new housing in North Fair Oaks, which was rezoned for higher density previously, even though it wasn't rezoned to help meet our arena necessarily because we didn't need it, helped us to accommodate that growth. So we came close to meeting our targets, but we had sufficient sites. We are not required to cause the development to happen. And I think that's an important point that both Dana and Steve made. We are rezoning to provide opportunities for future development. We are not sponsoring development. We're not building it. There are no development proposals with any specificity at all in the immediate future or indeterminate future. But we did, without rezoning any parcels, meet our arena in the prior cycle, in every prior cycle.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, was it easier getting that previous element approved, housing element approved, compared to this time? Because our numbers are higher this time.
Not only the numbers being higher, which was a crucial issue for us and for many other jurisdictions throughout the state, but also there were the myriad new requirements for how we performed our analysis, how we demonstrated that we were compliant with state law, how we demonstrated that we are meeting fair housing goals that the state established in terms of not concentrating housing, in terms of a variety of other things. The scrutiny and the review process was significantly more difficult. We entered this during the COVID lockdown, which created difficulties as well, just as a kind of external factor. But yes, I think it cannot be overestimated how much more difficult this process was than any prior process. And it's because of the number of new state laws that were adopted. It's not the fault of the Department of Housing and Community Development who were struggling with the new state laws as we were. Everyone involved in the process had to take into account essentially an entirely new process with entirely new standards and learn how to navigate those in real time. So it made it quite difficult.
Okay. So now the areas that we have in our in this report about being rezoned, or we are looking at rezoning, they will be like, some of them already have structures on them, right?
That's correct. So what we are doing by rezoning areas that may have structures on them is providing the opportunity, should a developer want to redevelop, a property owner want to sell that property or redevelop them themselves. It does not say that use cannot continue in perpetuity. Anything that's on any site can continue. That business can continue. It can be rebuilt, but should someone want to build something else, with a different density and a different use, it allows that. So it's a permission to use those properties for a different purpose in the future.
Okay. Okay. So they can continue doing whatever they have currently,
Yeah.
the business they have.
If it's a business, if it's commercial, if it's industrial, if it's residential, all of those continue. This doesn't preclude any of those uses going on indefinitely. There's no sunsetting of any of those uses. It's just, should new development occur, it allows you to do something different.
Okay.
And I would add to that, I think, you know, amongst the increased interest and involvement of the state in tracking the production of housing, you know, in the past, we needed to demonstrate the availability of sites. The state has started tracking more the actual production of the sites. And while Will is 100% correct, there's no mandate on these property owners to redevelop. If they don't, and the county does not achieve the provision of units that the state is expecting, there could be consequences for the county.
You know, this is an additional provision state law is the state is going to be much more strict in saying, okay, you projected this many units will be built or can be built on these sites. How are you doing? What is your progress? And if in the middle of our housing unlock cycle, we have not made sufficient progress, they're going to ask us to do one or more of several things: find more sites to rezone, or change our policies to make them even more streamlined and even more incentivizing of housing in a variety of ways. So it doesn't mean we have to do anything necessarily with these sites once we've rezoned them, but we may be forced to go out and in an even more difficult quest to find available sites, because we think we've tried to do the best to find every available site, but we may have to try even harder to identify more sites and to change our policies to be much more per both facilitating and encouraging more housing.
Okay.
In terms of the Broadmoor site in particular, it's the area that's being affected by this potential, you know, it's quite small. It's is that really a practical? Is there an expectation that something's going to happen there?
It is the area is fairly small, but the parcels themselves are. There is a car wash on the site. It's actually a fairly flat site. The primary site there are a couple sites I think that are in the same ownership. It's mostly parking lot, and so it actually could accommodate quite a bit of housing should someone choose to redevelop that site.
Yeah. Is there any indication that there's interest in that, or
we do not have we did not go to the property owners, and you know, again, we are providing the opportunity in future, but we are not asking them to do it, certainly.
Yeah. I guess maybe what is the balance of going, like the Colma site is extensive. You know, a significant chunk of this is being rezoned. Is it more practical to work with a larger area versus like a very targeted, these 4 lots can be I
think we tried to do a balance of both. So we were looking at given what's on the site, how likely is it that it would be used for redevelopment, given its adjacency. So the Colma site is directly adjacent to existing multifamily housing. So extending that makes a lot of sense. There were a lot of locational factors and criteria that we looked at. In the case of Colma, I mean, it just made sense. We do not believe all of those sites in Colma will ever redevelop, obviously, but it made sense to have a coherent zoning district. In the Broadmoor area, those are the only parcels that don't allow residential in that entire area. So what we are doing, and the directly adjacent to it is already a high density residential site. So in essence, we're just extending that high density residential site to incorporate adjacent parcels.
Yeah, I guess maybe in the next review, it would be helpful to not just show the area that's being reconfigured, but also perhaps what the surrounding areas.
We can absolutely show the characteristics of the surrounding land uses.
So are these the only 4 areas we have in our unincorporated San Mateo County?
These are the only 4 areas where we could demonstrate the feasibility of development if we were to rezone them to the satisfaction of ourselves and the state. There may be other areas that are more difficult, but we could propose rezoning. But these are basically the sweetest spots, is how I would put it.
And these are the only ones we have included
In this cycle.
housing.
Yes, in this cycle, I think it's important to view this in kind of the sequence of the cycles we've done. So, for example, in the prior cycle, we proposed and we accomplished a lot of rezonings in the North Fair Oaks area. And that area remains an area that is, can accommodate significant amount of new units. So I think, Will's point is correct. For this cycle, we are looking under every rock possible to identify places where we think it's feasible, because getting back to the new requirements of distribution of housing, right? In prior cycles, we placed a lot of focus on other areas like North Fair Oaks. But because we had already completed those rezonings and used it in prior cycles, we couldn't reuse it in this cycle. So the areas within the unincorporated area that can accommodate additional development go well beyond what we're proposing by this rezoning. But this rezoning, these 4 areas of rezoning are essential for us to meet both the allocation as well as the distribution requirements.
I actually have another question. So I wasn't here for the housing element development, but I'm curious if you have on hand what our production numbers were for the previous housing element versus like what we were required to do.
We had so our total reno was about 930 or 903. I can't remember which. I think we came about 75%, within about 75% of that.
Okay.
But it varies along income levels. We did really well in the above moderate income level, which covers single family homes. Essentially, we do a lot more of those. But we had some very large affordable housing projects and multifamily projects that came in and filled in some of the lower categories. I can't remember the exact numbers, but I would say it's approximately around that.
Okay.
And we can show that when we come back for further briefings, we can show those numbers just as a comparative. Again, it's very hard once we can establish the opportunity to develop. It's very hard for us to push developers beyond that. We do the best we can. Our housing department is fantastic in funding housing, incentivizing housing, particularly multifamily housing. But there's only so much, it doesn't depend on the private market to a large extent.
Yeah, it would be nice for me, especially coming in kind of midway, to also see what our progress is currently on this.
Absolutely.
Cycle.
I can provide that. That was obviously a large part of the discussion prior to your tenure, but we can provide that information certainly. And we track it year by year. So we have every year we report on, here are our targets, how close are we to the targets, what has happened that year, and then cumulatively we have the tracking.
Yeah, and I imagine a lot of the sites that we have in our housing element are not getting rezoned because they're deemed to be able to accommodate in their current zoning.
That's correct. Yes. So we do have many sites that we identified for development or redevelopment do not need rezoning. They already are appropriate. So the rezoning sites are just for what we didn't achieve. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I would note, though, that for the sites that don't require rezoning that we believe have development potential, there was a lot of back and forth with the state that questioned our assumptions about development potential. And that was one of the challenges we faced, was proving to the state that our assumptions are based on sound data and experience.
And then I take it that given our like mid-cycle progress, we'll have to come back and look at those assumptions, perhaps?
Yes, that's correct. So we think we did a pretty robust job. We looked both at what is happening in the unincorporated areas on comparable sites, what kind of development have we seen, what is happening countywide on all comparable sites, and in particular adjacent to the rezoning areas when we identified those. We think our assumptions are sound and possibly a little on the conservative side, but if, I mean, we may enter a recession in the next few years, unfortunately, which changes everything, which is going to slow down development significantly. But yes, in theory, if in the mid-cycle we are far from our goals, then we'll have to both assess how do we identify more sites or change our policies, and are the assumptions wrong? That's correct.
Thank you.
So in the density, there's a range that's always mentioned. I don't have the exact numbers, but like 70 to 100 or something like that. So which number do we use when we tabulate the number of units?
So for Belmont Harbor Industrial and unincorporated Tacoma, the maximum density is proposed to be 120 units per acre.
Okay.
And the bottom is, I believe, 60.
Okay.
70.
Yeah, I
And
think
what
it's,
we went site by site and said, how close could this site come to 120? And in general, we assumed about 70% of maximum density. So that's how we got the calculation. The El Granada site is much lower. It's 30 to 60. And I think we assumed an even lower percentage of the maximum. So we looked at, for comparably zoned sites that have construction on them, how close did they come to the maximum density? And we basically ground truthed it in that and used other factors as well, but we never assumed the max density for anything.
Okay.
We assume, when you develop a site like this, how much of it do you actually use on the site? How tall, how many units do you actually tend to get based on, the prior 5 years of development across the county and in just the unincorporated areas. So we tried to use empirical evidence on the ground to say, how close would we actually get?
okay.
And that's where the numbers come from.
So, okay. So a lot of work went in those numbers that
Yes.
you
Yeah,
included
it
in
was
the- okay.
probably the single biggest task of the housing element update. Yeah.
So now the El Granada property is vacant, right?
It is vacant. It's all zoned for residential uses. A significant chunk, as Steve said, is already zoned for high density multifamily residential. We would be extending that to the other parcels, but it is all vacant and has been vacant for some time.
Okay. So then why do we need to rezone it?
Because part of it is for single family residential. So we're going to raise the densities on those sites.
I see.
So yeah, this is a site that already could be built with residential, which I think there may not be a clear understanding of that across the board, but one of those sites could already be built with high density residential. Several of them could already be built with single family residential, but the plan is to increase how much housing you could build on those sites.
Okay. And that is something we are looking at for possibly for lower, like for people with low income.
So so the county has an inclusionary housing ordinance that says when you build multifamily housing, 20% of it must be affordable. There will be no special policy or regulation that requires anything other than that. The county's existing policy will apply. What we're rezoning for is multifamily housing specifically, which does tend to provide more affordability, but we are not mandating anything except the policy that is already in place. So this would just be a mixed income site in the normal course of multifamily housing.
Okay. Because that is the one where we have a lot of correspondence.
Certainly.
But
Yeah.
they want to keep it open.
Certainly.
Right.
And entirely understandable.
Right. Right. Okay. Mhm. Mhm. And we are looking at all these as owned properties or rental properties?
It would be up to the developers. I would say there's a preference on the part of the county for rental because
For rental.
that is what we have a shortage of. I think something like 80% of the units in the county are ownership units. So we have a shortage of rent, and it's really good to balance that because different families, different households need different types of tenure, ownership and rental. But there's no mandate. It will allow the density, but you could build it as ownership or you could build it as rental.
Okay, so there's no differentiation.
No.
Like you don't specify.
There'll be no specifications to that.
Mm,
No.
mm. Because for at least for as we go into like higher end properties, people prefer ownership. Yeah. So
That is true. I would say they do, but the market changes depending on economic conditions. And sometimes developers will make more profit from rental property than ownership, and sometimes the other way. So that kind of tends to be for purely affordable properties, they're almost always rental, but for mixed or just market rate properties, it really is cyclical. So sometimes we get more rental just because that product type is more profitable and sometimes otherwise.
okay. And then who takes care of the infrastructure to support these developments?
So it depends on the location. The county obviously is trying to do a lot of infrastructure work on the coast side that should benefit any project that is built, but a large burden of it falls on the developers. They have to provide it.
Okay. Because that has to be there in order for it to be
Correct.
supported.
Yeah.
And to make it a viable residential project.
Correct. So
right.
yeah, should the infrastructure not exist, and the county, and in the case that the county has no intent to provide it, or other providers have no intent to provide it, then it would be on the developer to make it a viable site.
Yeah, because I did see that we try to have something closer to transit. So
This is the one,
right.
because we are mandated to geographically diversify sites and not just put sites on the bay side. This is the one site that does not meet those criteria. It meets other criteria, but not the transit location. That's correct.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I don't have any further questions.
I think we should move to public comment next.
Yes.
Please.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Madam Clerk, would you please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And we did receive public comment yesterday that was circulated to the commission, as well as additional comments received this morning that will be added and made part of the administrative record. And at this time, we have nobody wishing to speak in chambers, but we have 2 hands on Zoom. Oh, make that 1. So I will call on Sid Young. You will have 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. I just tuned in, so I missed the presentation. I apologize. I'm mostly calling about the El Granada site, which is the Cabrillo Unified School District surplus land site. It's an upslope site. I don't know if they gave you a presentation showing any photographs, but it's highly vegetated with eucalyptus trees, which are highly flammable. So that would be on the developer, I presume, to cut all those down. There's no roads. They're all paper streets. So its access is problematic. And as far as the feasibility and the sweet spot, there really isn't any for the coast side because, as you probably know, we don't have any emergency evacuation here. It's a traffic jam on the weekends, and even on work days, people commute, and it gets to be there's certain times of the day when you can't even get through Half Moon Bay because it's gridlock. There's no health care. They just closed down the only clinic that was here. Actually, I shouldn't say that. There's a county clinic, but as far as a regular There's no hospital right now. They are closed down, but there was Dignity Healthcare had a clinic, and they're closing on October 31st. In El Granada and Moss Beach, there's a food desert. There's just little tiny grocery stores. No, easy marts. There's a few little small grocery stores, and transit, Samtrans only goes once per hour. So, it's not a good spot for the affordable housing, but mixed use, mixed income, that would be good. But right now, I don't think it's not very responsible to put a big complex in that location. Just like the Mid-Penn Cypress Point is very irresponsible. The county just yesterday, I think it was, spent $30,000 to make no parking on Carlos Street, which is the access point for Cypress Point, just to put up no parking signs because the district fire marshal would not grant building permits because of the poor access. So we just have a problem here in that we don't have transit. There's no school buses to get around for kids. And, people have to drive to the store 14 miles round trip. It's pretty difficult. So I think mixed income would be better. And that's an uphill slope site there. So I could see somebody buying the entire parcel and building the really fancy homes up top, and then kind of downhill, maybe the more lower income homes. Or what's happening also, you can build a house plus an ADU and rent that. So that would be some kind of feasible property, with a live in one and rent the other. But what I wanted to say in my last 2 minutes is to Steve Monowitz mostly. I know Scott Wiener really, prides himself on high density, but I don't think any of his ordinances that he has passed in his legislation provide any funding. And our county is, they gave him a big award yesterday for trying to claw back some of the money that the state kept from us for VLF fees. But our county's in trouble right now because they didn't give us all our fees. And what are we supposed to do for infrastructure? We almost have used up all our sewer capacity again. And, just to fund infrastructure to put pipes in up there for all the sewer pipes and water pipes, just to, that parcel has none. I mean, if they want to build roads, sewers, water, are they giving the county money to help fund all the infrastructure? What about the roads in Moss Beach? That Moss Beach corridor is not going to be completed till 2030, but they want to break ground on Cypress Point this year when the hospital is closed. And we don't have a bike path all the way down to Half Moon Bay with no school buses. How are those kids going to get to school? Nobody's thinking about that. And it's not right to low-income families to make them drive their kids to school 14 miles round trip. Not that maybe they don't even work on the coast side. Maybe they have to get to jobs before school starts. I don't know. I don't think people are thinking about that. So I'm fine that if you guys want to go ahead and approve the upzoning of that parcel, but you got to think about letting them build something a little higher quality than a low-income housing. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now call on the last speaker on Zoom, and that is Dan Haggerty.
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Dan Haggerty, 35-year resident of El Granada, 13-year member of the Midcoast Community Council, although I'm not on the council anymore. Yeah, I have some great concerns with this rezoning program. One of the top concerns is that by rezoning this area will further conflict with the original historic design by Daniel Burnham. His visionary City Beautiful movement included, beautiful, beautiful neighborhoods. And it's important to note that the homeowners in this area, in all of El Granada, but specifically the neighborhood of question, paid a lot of money for housing in this area with the understanding and expectations of the existing zoning, a contract, if you will. So it's not fair to move the goalpost after families have settled in and found great love of the character of the neighborhoods that were chosen to live in. Pushing a mass increase of rentals provides no commitment by the people that would live there to keep the neighborhood up and beautiful. There's no interest. They're renting in an area. They would be renting in an area where the homeowners, and then this is a big conflict. It's my the California Department of Finance did an audit and it failed. So I think this whole housing need is somewhat being taken advantage of by certain politicians seeking help make profits for developers and investors, and will not respect the local neighborhood. I believe it's too much. It's proposed is just too much. It'll make evacuation more difficult, lower property values, and would visually just not blend with the neighborhood. As far as the infrastructure, historically, developers do not put in the proper infrastructure, and then later on, the homeowners of the area will have the property taxes raised to take on these problems. I think that the concept of sardine can housing is just it's just not fair to the people that live here currently. It's not fair to the people who will ultimately live in whatever they can afford and whatever they can find. Yes, because they have no other choice. But by your planning is steering into the sardine can housing concept, which against Daniel Burnham's vision, original historic design. I do not approve this upzoning proposal, and that's all I have to say for right now. Thank you.
Thank you. That was the last comment on Zoom for item number 3. Thank you.
No, I think that the issues raised by the speakers are certainly to come up again in future reviews where I think we'll have more details available to respond. So at this point, I appreciate the commenters for their participation. And unless the commission has any other questions or comments on our next steps, we're ready to proceed to the next item. I do want to note that tonight the staff will be going to the Midcoast Community Council meeting and will be presenting the rezoning program to the Community Council. So I know that the two speakers on Zoom today often participate in those meetings, so they'll have an opportunity to express their point of view there as well as at future meetings. You're welcome. Yes, I'll cover the next three items. So in terms of correspondence directed to the commission, I have none to report to you today, other than the correspondence that was posted to the website. So moving on to item 5, our next meeting will be on November 12th. We are not planning to do a study session, but we do have 4 items currently on the agenda. They include a general plan conformity for the acquisition of various parcels in the El Granada area by the San Mateo County Harbor District. We have a permit for improvements to the trash enclosures that serve the Moon Ridge Farm Worker Housing Project in south of Half Moon Bay. We have permits to legalize improvements made to an agricultural property in San Gregorio, located at 350 Madera. I would note that that item was at the Ag Advisory Committee meeting on Monday. The advisory committee continued the matter, so it may be that we need to postpone that to allow the Ag Advisory Committee to complete its review. That is yet to be determined. And then finally, we have permits for road repairs, bank stabilization, and habitat restoration adjacent to Mills Creek, which borders Higgins Canyon Road, and that's also just south of Half Moon Bay. So a fairly full agenda on November 12th. With regard to the director's report, as you heard from some of the prior speakers, I was going to inform the Planning Commission that yesterday the Board of Supervisors did approve a permit and a resolution to allow for the installation of no parking signs along Carlos Street in Moss Beach. This is being done at the request of Coastside Fire Protection District. The Cypress Point project obtains access from Carlos Street, and the fire district determined that prohibiting parking along Carlos Street was necessary to maintain adequate emergency access, not only for the Cypress Point project, but for the entire community. And so the the Carlos Street is amongst the streets in that neighborhood has the least number of residents whose driveways come onto Carlos Street. So in terms of our options for providing unobstructed access for emergency vehicles, it was determined that it would be the least impactful method of doing so, and the board concurred with that. I've been keeping the commission updated on what's happening in Seal Cove. As you know, the geologic study is underway and nearing completion. We expect the report to be completed in early November, and we anticipate going back to the community for a second community meeting in mid-November. And then on November 4th, the Board of Supervisors will be considering a hearing on a project that failed to gain Planning Commission approval due to a split vote. This was the La Casia project in El Granada, and because the applicant was unable to obtain approval from the Planning Commission, they've made an appeal to the Board of Supervisors seeking their approval of the project. So once again, that will be on November 4th. And that concludes the items I have to present to you today for the director's report. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them.